Hello, hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is African Queen Mo here with another show. How are you doing? It is Sunday, the 12th of January. We're not even halfway, and already, hey, you know, we are just being bombarded left, right, and center. Now, I'm coming to you from the beautiful city of Nairobi, and I am on stage here with my wonderful colleague who I'm introducing to the show. Karibu Susan. Today is Sunday, We just
Hello.
decided to do an extra show for you guys. Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you?
How's your day
How
been
is
today?
everybody?
Good.
Um, interesting hot. It's been really hot today.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
know. It's been hot, not because we have wildfires, but because it's January, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's January in
Yeah.
Kenya. So, in many countries, it's also freezing cold. This is the time when it's also winter in other countries. So, we're on the side of the sun. We're on the sunny side of things. Yeah. Except that we are also being faced with a lot of challenges. Today, we thank you very much, guys, for watching. We can see some people are watching already our live show. This is a live stream. And what that means is that you need to be notified, you need to subscribe and actually press the notification bell so that you are alerted to the live shows. Otherwise, you might miss them. If you find it difficult to get onto the live show, you can check my Facebook page and see whether maybe you might be able to get on there, or the YouTube channel, or StreamYard. Actually, within this show itself, I also provide a link. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about tips for surviving the challenges and catastrophes, okay, that we are facing every day, and our mental health being at great risk because everywhere you turn around, it's negative news, bad news. And we don't have enough time over the week in the 3 days to cover everything. So I thought on a Sunday, it would be a good idea, to come a little bit earlier, even if we just have a 1 hour show or less or more, depending on whoever's coming on board. At least let's have that space to discuss. We want to invite you into the studio. Welcome into the studio. Or you can come into the comment section and chat with us. Okay, guys? So, welcome. Identify yourself. Let us know who's there, who's watching, and where you're watching from, and what concerns you today. Yeah, Susan, would you like to say anything so far?
Um, this is a new year, and with it comes a lot of hope and changes. People look to change a lot in their lives, and sometimes when you plan to say move ahead or move away from certain things, negative things in your past, sometimes where this lady,
Oh, there you go.
the
Yeah.
husband was planning to move ahead without her, and she decided just to do the worst thing possible in the end. And she was not part of his New Year, his 2025 plan, and she decided that she was going to cause him, to unalive him. So definitely,
Oh
those
my
are mental
gosh.
health issues. The
Hmm.
friends said that of her, they say that she's a terrible person. This guy's wife, you see, she's not okay, and she has mental health problems. And I think the her husband had had enough of it, all the stress, and he had planned to move away. Um, so yeah, so it's important for us to discuss freely and to share what we know about mental health, to help each other through some of these struggles. We all have different experiences and knowledge, skill sets that will help us to really build a body of knowledge that will support us in living a more positive 2025.
Yeah, that's true, Susan.
Over to you,
Wow.
Timo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult to live with somebody who has a mental illness. It's true. It can be very challenging. And unfortunately, what happens is that many people who do, some people maybe acquire the mental illness before, or others are able to kind of like camouflage themselves or mask it while during the dating period. So a lot of people get married to people who, or get into relationships with others who have mental illness, or if you have a mental illness yourself, you don't disclose it to your partner until it's too late. Yeah. And so what happens is that it's actually really true. And I saw some studies that were saying that in Kenya, for example, we actually have a mental health crisis in Kenya. One in every four people is actually going to the hospital for a mental health condition. And a mental health condition is schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, depression. Okay. And these are serious illnesses. These are not illnesses or conditions to be joking with at all. And so, if it's one in every poor people, that's 25% of the population. And that is actually seeking support in mental health, in health facilities. And that is actually quite a significant number. If you look at, for example, the offices when you're working, or your workspaces, whether it's an office space or a market, or a shop or a supermarket, or a restaurant, or wherever you're working, you'll find that one in every four people, 25% of you, one person has a mental health illness, and it could even be your boss. And it can make it really, really difficult for one to work. If you are the person with a mental illness, you can make it difficult for your condition, can make it difficult for your colleagues. And if it is your boss, if it is your supervisor, it can also make it very difficult for the workers and difficult for the company. And if employees are not empowered to be able to express themselves or express their concerns, or be able to highlight these kinds of problems, or if, for example, there is stigmatized, mental illness condition is stigmatized, or you have an attitude or a culture of stigmatization in the workplace, then many of these people will not even get the help that they need. And the workplace will become toxic, and people will quit, or people will actually start to develop other kinds of chronic illnesses because of having to be forced to remain in that situation. I'm talking about something like, for example, I have been through in workspaces, and especially in Western countries, because mental illness is very prevalent in Western countries. And when you go to many people are actually on mental health medication in Western countries, and most of them are actually working. Most people work with their mental health conditions, but you may or may not be aware about it. So if you're coming from a country, for example, let's say you're coming from the countries such as in Africa, or from Asia, or from other places where mental health conditions, most people with mental health conditions don't necessarily hold down full-time jobs. Many people don't actually. Many people don't actually work with their mental health conditions, or they kind of like are very good at camouflaging it so that they do not disrupt the workplace or get noticed. So, but in these other countries where it's completely accepted, you will find that your colleagues, many of them will have mental health issues, and you might find yourself becoming a victim in that kind of environment, and wonder why things are not moving the way they should be, not realizing that you're actually surrounded by people who have mental health problems, or maybe your boss has a mental health problem and you're not aware about it and you don't know how. So that becomes part now of your job description, in addition to the work that you're supposed to be doing. So you have these terms of reference, you have your work, you have your job description, but then what they don't tell you is that you're going to be reporting to a boss who has a mental health illness, and therefore you need to manage their condition. You have to manage yourself in a way that their condition will not victimize you or traumatize you. So these are some of the things anyway. But at the moment, what are the kind of stressors, the stress factors that can contribute to mental health conditions are, mental health conditions sometimes can be genetic. They could either be genetic, they could, come from your DNA, or they could be a product of your environment. They could be a product of your past traumas and stresses that you've gone through. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could also be a factor of chemical imbalances in your brain, dopamine, serotonin, all those, chemical imbalances in your brain. So it could either be genetic, something you inherited, or something that you're born with. It's your own personal condition, or it's a product of the trauma that you experienced as a child or growing up, you know, or it could be just a product of stress, going through stressful situations, and also the politics in the country can also contribute to mental health, to mental instability amongst the population. So if you have very toxic politics, like we have been experiencing over the past couple of years, that can also contribute to a very unstable uh, situation with on mental health with many people. So these are things that I've been reading about and seeing that we need to understand what are the kinds of stresses that we are exposed to or exposing ourselves to. Some of the sources of these stresses could be from media, both mainstream and social media. Yeah, they could also come from the stresses can also come from lack of sleep, inadequate sleep, and many people who are on social media do not get enough sleep, actually enough rest. Like Susan was talking before about rest and how important it is. Again, the news, negative news, can contribute to a lot of stress and trauma. Right now we are facing a situation where early in the year we have been faced with terrorist attacks. I don't know whether we should be using those words. Yeah, but kind of terror situations. We've been hearing reports of terror, should we say? The unaliving of people shooting down, mowing down, driving down a road and mowing down people in countries like the US. Yeah, people, unaliving children or unaliving people in a subway, where we heard about, like, for example, in the UK as well, a 14-year-old boy lost his life he was stabbed in, was it a train or a bus, in public transport just this week. Yeah.
A
So all
bus.
of those
A
things
bus.
can, yeah, it was a bus. Yeah. A young boy, only 14-year-old. And when the paramedics arrived, they were not able to save his life. At the moment, we're seeing California wildfires. We're calling them wildfires, but then they seem to have had an arrest. So we have the California fires, and that is touching on, guess what? It's touching on the wealthy population, some of them the 1%. So we wonder to ourselves, how does that affect the dynamics of the US being a very, very rich country when we're going into a season where we're expecting a change of guard, where a new president is coming in on the 20th of this month? Is it the 19th of this month? He's supposed to be sworn in, Donald Trump. But what is he going to find? He's going to find a California with the Palisades and many other areas that are completely burnt down, where we have a traumatized population, where we had an incident where the insurance manager, CEO, was actually unalived. And now insurance companies are not planning to compensate a lot of people. A lot of people are not going to be compensated by insurance companies in California. So very many wealthy people are going to suddenly become unwealthy. They're going to become homeless, and they're going to lose a lot of money because in their homes, it's not just a home. Many of them even are working at home. So those are also their offices. Some of them have studios. That's where they work. They're close to Hollywood. Many people are working in Hollywood. And by the way, these are some of the wealthier, the 1%, where the richest 1% live, those Palisades. Yeah. So we are, what are we talking about? Are we changing the dynamics? How is that going to impact on the relationships of Americans towards each other? We have seen, like, the Mexicans have actually come in with a plane to try and help the fires. The fires are the firefighters, and the fires are busy just spreading. They're spreading. As much as they talk about that, with when the wind kind of calms down, they're hoping that the wind is going to cooperate. But they have been warned that the wind will not cooperate. It's coming back. And then on top of that, there's a threat of a tsunami because there was a 7.4 on the Richter scale earthquake off the coast of California, of Los Angeles. So people are not even safe they can't even drink the drinking water. They can't drink water. They can't go into the ocean and try to purify the water. I don't know. But the water is not safe. They don't even have enough of it. And on top of that, they're also being faced with a threat of a tsunami. So we're looking at fires, tsunami. And although this fire has only, I don't want to say only, but this fire has taken the life of so far about approximately 13 people, Fact is, that number is actually rising. In fact, I think I saw it has come up to 18 now. Yeah. So I'm going to play a few videos for you, but I'll ask Susan to respond so that we also get her views on this while I also prepare
Yeah.
videos.
Definitely, definitely, the response to a catastrophe when you lose everything, or you lose your home and other valuable things, things of historic value to you, will certainly cause some sort of mental health trauma, one way or the other. Certainly, the questions that come up is the issue of preparedness, because my understanding is that that region um, suffers fires. It's not uncommon for it to happen. Um, and so the issue of preparedness and whether these enough steps have been taken to really deal with the triggers, so to reduce the possibility of there being a wildfire. The fauna in that region, apparently, my understanding about it is that it sort of can be very dry. So for a wildfire to start is quite easy to start. There are issues about to build resilience. The question is, are the people building their new houses there in that area, are they to build resilience? Is the architecture changing so that they're able to cope with it in the event there is a wildfire or any other extreme weather condition? Um, you know, what are the architects doing about that? What are the planners doing about, town planners, city planners, area planners doing about that? What advice are they giving those who have already built their homes, so that the buildings, even though the residents may evacuate, the buildings remain firm? You can imagine situation where your home has been razed to the ground. It's devastating. Leaves them in shock, other trauma, anxiety. Um, they have to perhaps start all over again. They're going to rebuild their homes. They have to be away from their homes for some time while that place is being built. So the mental health issues that are likely will, to occur as a result of that are numerous, are likely to be high. But it's good for us to think about what preventative methods are they thinking about to make sure that it doesn't happen next year and the year after. It's very difficult to tell people to move away from the space where their families, where they've lived for so many years. It's very difficult for, there's history, there's family history in that area. So I think for me, I think the next best step, or the next option, is really to think of ways to deal with those extreme weather patterns.
Yeah, that's true. Susan, last time I was showing videos and I thought that I was actually presenting them. And then I was actually just watching them myself, assuming that you're
No,
watching them.
I saw them.
Then, oh, you actually saw
I
them. Okay.
Yeah, I saw the videos. I saw the videos that you were
Ah,
able to show. I saw them. Yeah,
yeah. Because when I went to
yeah.
the screen, I didn't actually see them. When I went to watch it later, I actually didn't see the video. So I'm just wondering whether maybe they're not being recorded
Oh,
once maybe for the people who are going to watch later. Anyway, oh, you saw them. Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw.
Fia says that she saw the pictures. Total devastation. It's true,
Yeah,
Fia. Yeah,
yeah.
devastation. It's actually making me very concerned because most of us have relatives, friends in the US, and you wonder to yourself, is this thing, what really is it? Because there's been also reports of what they call unidentified flying objects before that. So there's been so much going on that we kind of like get a little bit of anxiety about this whole thing. Yeah. Let
Mm,
me see if I can share my screen and show you a couple of videos here. Okay, so
yeah.
this
We
one is
saw them.
talking about, huh?
Yeah, we saw them.
Ah,
I
you
could
saw
see
them
them.
before. Okay, that's great. Yeah. Let me see if I can also
Mm,
share some new ones.
yeah.
On for example, the way the US has been abandoned by by insurance companies. Los Angeles residents are sad because insurance companies have abandoned them, literally. Okay, let me see if I can play that. Can you see that?
Yeah. A break from destructive winds. Yeah. Can
It's
see.
not very loud though.
No, but there's some writing there. We can.
Okay.
Maybe you can explain what's happening.
Okay, Ram
But
So
Miller
the
lost his
occurrence is
family for
nothing of
25
this
years.
magnitude, um, and I think that they were so overwhelmed with the fires, so concentrated and so
The
large
fires were
in that
concentrated in a
area,
large
with
area
the high
with high
wind that we
winds.
had, there was
So
no
he
possible
he
way
recognizes that
to
there's no
fight it.
possible way to fight it. The Palisades fire is the first and biggest of multiple fires that have been raging around Los Angeles for 2 days. It's still coming out of the debris. Okay, so the guy is saying that he's completely surrounded by homes that have been burnt and almost melted. And say, they think that it looks like a war zone with all the cars. Some people, like, they owned a therapy center. This lady, she owned a therapy
Oh my
center that
God,
she
I
can hardly
cannot. Wow,
recognize.
there's nothing left in here. Wow,
And she's saying there's nothing left here.
wow. This is the area where I went every day.
Yeah.
12 years.
So for 12 years, she's been going to this area. She doesn't recognize it anymore.
No, it really feels like a movie.
It
yeah,
feels like a movie.
So weird.
People just cannot believe it. You know, it's so painful for them
yeah.
to walk and see their buildings, their neighborhoods totally gone.
Every year there's an Indian restaurant.
There was an Indian restaurant,
Celebrate our Christmas holiday,
and this is where they were celebrating Christmas. Oh my God. So she's also grieving for her clients and her friends, and she's a trauma
one of those
therapist.
things that is not so much one can do. It's just really a grieving process. You have to allow the grieving. You can't bypass emotions. You have to first feel the grief and the loss and the sadness. Here we're seeing some people with
Yeah,
suitcases.
yeah, just look at that. People are only left with like suitcases. Oh my God. And she's saying that you cannot bypass the grieving process. You just have to allow it to
Yeah.
continue.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that is so, so sad to watch. Yeah. Just look at that. Look at those people. I'm sure they're in complete disbelief. The grief hasn't even started yet, Susan. They're in shock. The body has a
Yeah.
kind of interesting way of dealing with this, because if you were to lose every single thing, everything, which might even include your pet, it might even include a pet, or God forbid, someone that you know. You know, it is so traumatizing. We're dealing with people who are, I don't even know how they're going to swear in Trump. How are they going to inaugurate him in January? Let me see
Has
if I
to
can.
go on.
Yeah. Hmm?
It has to go on. I was just looking up. I'm looking up something about managing mental health and coping with loss. So some of the pointers they gave was that we have to learn healthy ways to get through difficult times, and one of
Mm-hmm.
them is to take care of yourself by eating right, getting enough sleep, and avoiding bad habits. The bad habits, of course, are the addictive habits like alcohol, drugs, and
Mm-hmm.
those other habits. Talk to caring friends. So and find the third is find a grief support group. So we
Mm-hmm.
hope that there's a support group that is there available for those who are suffering the trauma of the California fires and any other trauma. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that we talking to friends also. And then the fourth one is um, not to make any drastic changes, not to plan to make drastic changes when you're going through
Yeah.
grief, because your judgment is likely to be a bit skewed and off. And then you talk to your doctor if you really can't cope. Then consider additional support, that is, for example, short-term therapy, and also to be patient. So you need to,
Yeah.
like a cooling off period, some quiet, just to absorb what has happened. And as that lady was saying, you can't pretend that you're not feeling anything about what has
Mm-hmm.
happened. You have to
Mm-hmm.
sort of face uh, um, headlong what you're really feeling, what emotions you're really feeling. Is it sorrow, is it anger, whatever it is, and really be able to identify it so that you're able to respond in an adequate way. So those are some of the tips I found for coping with loss. And so
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's watching, I'm sure you have more tips. It might be through personal experience or profession or skill. That you've come up with some advice, and we'd be really happy if you could just write it down in the comment section and engage us on the subject.
Yeah, true. You know that there was also a fire in the Bronx. I'm happy that you're giving us tips on how to cope, how to cope, to see a therapist, to not ignore your feelings. And apart from the people, in Los Angeles, we're in Kenya. We're in the beautiful city of Nairobi. Yeah. We call it beautiful. But even in Kenya, we are actually going through a lot of trauma. Every day we hear news. Sometimes the news is very negative. And like, for example, let me see if I can share my screen with you on the politics side of things. Today, by the way, we lost a very amazing lady called Ras Nawara. Are you aware about that, Susan? There's this lady called Ras Nawara who is a contributor on X, a Kenyan lady. And she passed away. Apparently, she was diagnosed with cancer some time back. But she's somebody I used to engage with. If you're on social media and you've never met the person, but then you've been engaging with the person on politics. She was very vocal on politics, on human rights, but she's also lost her life. She also,
I think
lost
she
her life
was also a
yesterday.
journalist. I think
Was she a
she's
journalist?
a
Yes, I think
journalist.
you're right. Yeah, she was a
I think,
journalist. Yes.
I think I've
Yeah.
read some of her articles.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. So we also have a situation like and then again, okay, so I was talking about in Kenya, what's happening in Kenya. Let me see. This gentleman here. Let me see if I can share this with you. This is just an article. Murkomen is actually Kipchumba Murkomen. He's actually now the security. He's in charge of security in the country, and he's promising to deal with the critics of the government who are misusing freedom of speech. Okay, and the problem that this Murkomen has. Do you see this? I wonder whether you can see it. Can you see it, Susan? Can you see my screen? Oh boy. It looks like I can't hear you. Susan, you're off. You're off.
Yeah.
Your sound.
I can see
can
the
you see my
screen.
screen?
It says,
You can see
yeah,
it.
it says,
Okay, then that's good.
but not
Yeah,
the
yeah,
really
yeah.
small writing. I can't read the small writing. Yeah.
Oh, you can't read the
So
small writing. Okay. So what this one is showing here is that this gentleman called Murkomen, he's promising to deal with the critics of the government. He has now been given a new role, and he says he's no longer into politics, and he is going to deal with the critics of the government. Yeah. He's going to deal with critics of the government seriously. And what is the problem that he's having? His problem is that Kenyans are taking what he believes that Kenyans are taking freedom of speech too far by showing images of people, of politicians in caskets. Kenyans on social media are showing images of politicians in caskets. And even the president of Uganda warned Kenyans about it. And Kenyans are not stopping. Kenyans on social media are not heeding to that. They're continuing. And they're daring. They're actually daring these people with these kinds of images. And I wanted to say, I don't have an opinion. I won't share my opinion. I don't have an opinion. We don't have an opinion on this, but it's just to tell you that the environment is risky. Criticizing the government on political issues, on politics, freedom of speech is being curtailed. We're in the post-truth era. Okay, the freedom of speech is being curtailed. There is a threat, even in the US, to ban TikTok. Apparently, TikTok only has maybe a couple of weeks left before it's completely banned. I think on the 19th of January in the US. So I'm not saying that what people are doing is correct or wrong. All I'm saying is that those of us who are social media critics or critics who come on social media to express ourselves, we're no longer going to have the freedom to express ourselves. freely and without fear. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because it's going to make it very difficult. Although I understand that the government needs to kind of have boundaries, or at least state their boundaries. I think it's okay to actually have some sort of boundaries in terms of what it is that you can show. Like, for example, children under the age of 18 should be protected, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of what you can make people show or not show image wise, what is considered to be an okay image to show or not, an okay statement to say or not, following the situation of abductions in our country, which they're calling arrests, it makes the environment feel insecure for people who want to genuinely criticize or critique the government, with the hope that their leaders will be listening to the ground, that this will be a way to communicate what is happening on the ground, what the ground feels, and whether or not to communicate to the government so that they can make changes, positive changes, which is really the role of critics and the opposition in government, of the government, and of the citizens, because these
Yeah,
are employees. Yeah, we have employed them to do the job. So the question
yeah, I
is,
think,
yeah, okay, go ahead, Susan.
yeah, I think, he'll have a challenge with that, because Kenya is not a police state. We have a constitution, a vibrant one, and it has a section which allows freedom of speech and assembly. So I'm very sure that this matter will be taken to court if he tries to infringe that, because we do have that as as a right. In terms of caricatures of political um, people, that is historically something that's done the world over, where caricatures of politicians, presidents, and all have been part of the history of many nations. We look at even it is about even here in Kenya, we can talk about the time of the comedians called Ridiculous, where they would do live shows and really mimic even the various presidents and speak like them and the various politicians. And then we had XYZ, which were puppets. They were made, and of course with exaggerated features, but we could tell this was so and so, and this was so and so, and this was so and so. I mean, and this is something that has been part of of the way people communicate about their politicians. We look at even in the West, the caricatures of all the various presidents and stuff like that. So it's really about you know uh, accepting we're in a democratic space, and people will and should be able to speak and say what they need to say about something, because and that's what makes a healthy and vibrant society. Because otherwise, absolute power, John Locke said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if there's nobody who's checking who's nobody who's commenting about what you're supposed to do, and actually that is our role as citizens of this nation. We are supposed to participate, we're supposed to engage, and we have that space, and to be able to say things which are right and things which are not making us happy. Otherwise, there'll be no accountability from the three arms of government. There'll be no accountability from the executive, from the legislature, or the judiciary. So, like you said, they don't want us to speak the truth. So if you speak that, you'd rather you give an alternative truth. You rather speak in nobody has the courage to say something is wrong. Instead of saying, you give an alternative truth to it, you misspeak it, or you know in other we're not facing up to the reality. So how do we improve as a country? So that's something of great concern to me, that somebody who first of all is a lawyer by training, and he has a particular knowledge of the constitution, would be saying something like that. It'd be interesting
Yes,
to
yes.
see which direction he goes. Yeah, and
Yeah,
he's
my view on
I think
that,
it
exactly,
might
Susan. I totally agree with you. Thank you so much for clarifying that. That those are caricatures, and you remind me of those ridiculous and the way they used to, dress up like the president and come. And actually, they were even invited to Uhuru, to national days to come and entertain the public and make fun of the president and his wife. And they were there and they would be laughing with tears in their eyes, including, Moy himself, by the way. you know? Yeah. And he would be laughing. Initially, he wasn't finding it funny, but eventually he accepted it. So I think the thing is that this is just a way for the executive to check itself. I think that they shouldn't overread into it and get emotional about it, that they should just bypass it and just let it be. Because if you remember, even during the days of Uhuru was made fun of a lot, and not even made fun of, he was even insulted and abused, even unfairly. But you never heard him say anything, which was really amazing. I used to say if I was him, I would do something probably. But he was so strong. And I think it's good for them not to actually focus and concentrate on on that, and to focus on the serious commentators, focus on the serious analysts, the analysts who are giving them information that they would have to pay to get. They would have to pay to get that information. Let me take a comment here from Fia. Fia is saying in the comment section, and guys, join us in the comment section. Fia is saying, I saw the pictures, total devastation. I read in some, she said that she read she read that some celebrities have hired private firefighters to protect their homes and paying $2,000 an hour. Wow. Seriously, Fia. I'm not surprised though. Private firefighters. How is that supposed to work? $2,000 an hour. It can't work, man. $2,000 an hour. But fire does not discriminate. Then oh God, I don't know how that's gonna work. Let's see how that works. That would be exactly how the attitude and the approach that the people in our countries would take. That in Africa. They would actually decide, you come over here and protect my property over here. Forget about all these other houses around here that are burning around me. I'll pay you $2,000 an hour to protect my property. Yeah, you dig a ditch. In the end, if the fire is very large, it will still cross over the ditch. There's no way. And the other thing I saw is that people are bidding on specific houses now. The few houses that are left, people are outbidding each other. Like everybody's bidding for the same house. One house maybe that has been left. So you ask yourself, now listen, if you're going to have maybe 5 houses in a community where there were 500, where is the community? Where is your community now? What is your community like? How long will it take to rebuild that community? So you want to buy the house for what? To live next to who? To do what? Yeah. I think, because the services are not going to be around, I just don't understand. But that's what's happening. So now the few houses that are left are going to be so expensive in that area. But they're going to be surrounded by ash. It's really, really crazy. Human behavior.
What
It's
I'm
really
finding
amazing.
so sad is the lack of humanity there. That these are people's lives which have been burnt to the ground, and some may actually have lost members of the family in those fires, and bidding on a house is so insensitive. It's so it doesn't sound right. Instead of supporting or grieving with those who are grieving, instead of feeling their pain, or which is the right thing to do, because that's a great loss. Even if it was a small house, it's still a great loss, because you don't know the value of that house to the person who has suffered that loss. So I think it's unfortunate that we become so wrapped up in our own lives that we look for opportunities, and it's not me. It doesn't affect me directly. It's just like the story you're telling about the celebrities paying firemen to guard their homes. And where is the wisdom in that? Like you said, I don't know whether it's a folk story or it's just a story, a parable, one of these fables that people tell about a farmer who was very successful, and he gave his neighbors the seed that he was using to multiply his wealth. And his crop was really good, very healthy, and very high quality. And he gave his neighbors the seed. So the neighbors were growing the same seed. So he was being asked, so, aren't you afraid of the competition? Why are you giving your neighbors the seed? He said, well, if my neighbor's properties are safe, mine is safe too. So it defeats the purpose when you think that I'm not sure exactly how those guys are employing people to guard their own homes and not guard the neighbors, because like you said, it will eventually reach them. So it's better to work together so that it doesn't come into an entire space, so all the houses in that area are safe. And like that farmer, his neighbors also became wealthy just like him, but his crops did not suffer disease because his neighbors' crops were healthy. So he was looking at his own crops and thinking and looking after his neighbors, because he knew that was the best way to continue to manage his wealth and to continue to have a thriving farm. So a lot of things you can learn about some of these things and the way people are responding to the devastation. And it's unfortunate that some are looking to buy houses there instead of, and I also read somewhere there's a lot of looting going on. There's a lot of looting that is going on, stealing and looting and breaking in, and people are taking advantage of that, which again is a very, very sad offshoot, taking advantage of people's pain, people's sorrow, and when people are down, you're just trampling all over them. You're muted.
Actually, so
muted.
yeah, sorry, apologies. Yeah. So I actually saw a TikTok video where they were talking about that people are so vested in policing rather than in protecting, or prevention. So, for example, instead of ensuring that there's enough water, in the fire hydrants, that it's coming at the right pressure, that it's there, that it's available, they are busy bringing in police. Did you see all those police? There was a video that was showing a lot of police that were brought into Los Angeles to protect property. But the thing is that it seems to be misplaced priorities, that instead of ensuring that the fire hydrants or that there was enough water to put out the fires. And then again, also there's another issue that's going on there, that there's somebody who is a trained firefighter who said that now they're offering courses online on how to fight fires. But they said that unless you're actually a trained firefighter or are going to be trained in firefighting and going to do the firefighting, it's apparently a double-edged sword, because it can be used in the wrong hands. That information can be misused, because there are people who still want to harm people. There are some people out there who want to exacerbate the fires. And there are some other people, they want to exacerbate the fires because of insurance. There are some people who also put they deliberately put their properties on fire, should I say, whatever, so that they can claim insurance. And others might be interested in harming others using fire. So it's a very dangerous situation, by the way, pretty dangerous. Yeah.
Certainly the strategy is poor. There's no planning. Like you're saying, if the emphasis is on protection rather than prevention, it means that the strategy is poor, because they should be working on prevention to reduce the harm, and protection too, to make sure that it doesn't that the stealing and the mugging and whatever else stops that from occurring. And of course, an issue of prioritization. What is the most important thing to do? So it looks like the strategy is weak, and everybody is just doing there's it looks like haphazard. There's no order, and that's why everybody's just doing whatever they can and employing their own firemen to watch their area. I mean, their homes rather than the whole area.
Exactly.
Which is which is, I think, man's behavior at its lowest. Because we are supposed to be community creatures. We are supposed to be people who thrive on relationships. We live in communities. But when you see it broken down now to a place where I'm just looking after my own space, I don't care about my neighbor, then that's very, very concerning. And it means that there's right things right there. When I heard one of the guys saying it looks like a war zone, I think he meant that in more sense than just what we're seeing in the raised cars and the raised buildings. It's even the way the human response. You know, people just trying to protect their small spaces, and because there are others who are trying to take advantage of this weakened position. It's unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Susan. I agree with you. Fear is saying that there's a serious uproar because of the divide between the rich and the middle class.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. And I have a video that actually talked about this in depth. I'm going to just show part of it and then also try to explain what the rest of it and what it actually says. Because it's probably a bit long. I'll just share my screen and see if I can find it and show it. It's called 19 Keys. There's this guy called 19 Keys. Let's see. Let me share. Yeah. 19 Keys message from California on fire. There we go. Yeah, I hope I'll be able to show it. Yeah, this gentleman here.
We can't hear anything.
Oh, you can't hear anything. Oh, okay.
No.
And now?
Have you
Can you hear
play?
that? Yes, I have. So let me stop it. Let me stop it then. And it's showing on my side, but it's not showing on your side. Okay, let me see here. Let me see if I can just get it back. Let me see here. Share this tab instead. Yes. Can you see it now?
Peace, family. 19 Keys tapping in with
Can you see it now?
I appreciate y'all locking in one time with
Yes.
me, especially during the times
Can you
that
hear
we
it?
live in
Can hear
right
you.
now. Very
Yeah.
Okay, good.
dangerous and hectic times. And we should all be paying attention to the signs that are here. I hope that everybody is.
Let me move a bit forward.
These are very perilous and dangerous times that we live in, right? This is a time of revelation, right? For all of us to pay attention. Whether something is happening to you or you're fortunate enough to be a spectator while something is happening to others. And the reason I say fortunate is because a wise man learns from other people's misfortunes so that he doesn't have to go through them his or herself. And I believe that we should all pay attention to the misfortunes that are happening here in California, for they are a revelation of the times that we live in, right? And I want to caution all those who speak with haste and who do not know how to edit their tongue. I think that too often that we turn people's tragedies so fast into content. And it's not that, when everybody has independent media, you can say whatever you want to, right? You can speak however you want to. That's your prerogative. But I think that we're living in a time where people sacrifice accuracy for speed. I'm all for.
Okay, let me move it a bit forward.
Standard. And then I went to go visit this temple and they had
No, forget that.
lost everything in a fire. What would I hold on to? What if you lost everything in a fire right now? How much would it mean to you? The place that you're living. Nothing is permanent. We get access to these things, but they are not permanent, right? We get to enjoy these things for the present moment, but they are not permanent. Our soul, our spirit, the time that we spend with loved ones and family, all right, our values, those are the things that we should always cherish the most. So no matter what we lose outside of ourselves, we will always be whole.
Okay, let me stop sharing this one because it's long. I would like to let me stop it. Mm, yeah. Okay. Let me stop sharing that one, and maybe because I wrote a few notes about what he actually was trying to communicate there, which was quite interesting actually. He was talking about the rule of impermanence. And he was saying that under the law of impermanence, things are ever changing. So over focusing on material possessions causing us to lose the most because we hold on to things that should be enjoyed in their presence and then let go. So he's referring to his visit to a temple in Japan that had burnt down and was restored. Okay, so part of the wisdom is that even a temple even a temple that is considered a shrine in all its nobility can come and go. So like churches also become victim, also become can also get burnt in a fire. They're not necessarily spared. They could be rebuilt again. But the fact is that what he's saying is that when God sends something in motion, he says that's what his view is. Nothing can stop it. So what he's saying is the rule of impermanence. The other thing he was saying is that the authority and ruling class only want extraction and power. And the average human being only wants a certain quality of life. So we need to decide on holistic and philosophical ideals of what is wealth. We need to redefine what is wealth. Because, for example, he gave examples of the Florida hurricanes, the fire the current fire now, the fact that the money was spent on policing rather than prevention. He's the one who talked about that. And he said that, ash was falling like potpourri. People didn't believe that this would happen to them. So he went on to talk about the fact that when the understanding of loss, you can never lose anything until you lose yourself. So he says we're way too materialistic. So what he's doing is pushing back against the over materialism, we have bought into the culture of materialism so much that we only judge the value of things based on their material value. Okay. So he talks about the fact that Hollywood can afford the loss, but many people cannot. Inhaling the air, some people are forced to remain and inhale that air, while other people can escape. Some people cannot even afford the health care that they need, to after inhaling all of that gas from those fires. They can't afford the healthcare that they need to get themselves fixed, even during the COVID years. And he said that this is an issue, the classism, this is an issue. Classism is going to be classism as well as racism and all these other things, are going to be exacerbated because of the issue of knowing the power of the resources, the power, the people who have power and access to resources. So anyway, he's very philosophical, and I thought that he was quite interesting. And what he was talking about, this is what he means when he calls it 19 keys. His name is 19 keys. He was revealing the California fire's hidden message. I thought it was quite deep, something interesting to share with you guys. Yeah.
Yes, certainly. His observation about being very materialistic and emphasizing on that over life, and of course, the rich poor divide, or rather the richest and rich divide between middle class and the very rich. It's interesting how that is always a dynamic in conflict, where it could be based on the face of it, this and that, and then when you look at it more deeply, you can see it's actually a rich against poor um, divide here. And there's the clashes that we had in 2007 in Kenya. And they said, well, it was political, but there was also another level when you peel back the layer, was about the rich and the poor. I just wanted to share some 7 pillars of self-care that were articulated by somebody called Macy Burkett in 2021. And she says the 7 pillars for self-care, this is for prevention of mental health illness and conditions. One is mental. That's the first pillar. So it's for us to have a healthy mindset, mindfulness, and curiosity. That's to keep our minds active and positive in the way we view life, seeking solutions, and being mindfulness. Mindfulness is described as I've got a definition of that as well. Is where you are very aware of your surroundings. You're aware, you are able to respond in a positive way to pain. So you accept, you experience the pain, you accept you are experiencing the pain, and your response to it is appropriate. The second pillar is emotional, healthy coping strategies. So, for instance, listening to music when you're under stress. What do you do? I'll ask those of us who are listening and to comment in the comment section. What do you do when you're stressed, when you are suffering from emotional stress? And one of the things you can do is listen to music. And I'm sure there are many other things that you can list. And the other one is physical. The third pillar is physical pillar. And this is where you must rest physically, you must eat right, and you must engage in movement, some sort of exercise, walking, running, swimming, whatever, tennis. Environmental, that is caring for places around you, gardening, taking walks in your good places, just keeping your garden clean. And the other one is spiritual, that is the religious aspect, church and other religions, depending on where your
Susan,
position.
I'm trying to keep
Yeah.
up with you. I wanted to write pillar 3. You go
Okay.
slowly
Pillar
so that I can
2.
type them
Pillar
out and
2.
show them. Pillar 3.
Oh, pillar 3
I'm
is
way behind. Yeah.
physical.
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 Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this requires that you take a lot of rest. You get your rest, adequate rest. Your
Mm-hmm.
nutrition is good. You make sure you're eating a balanced diet, including taking fluids. Water in particular is very important. And movement, doing some sort of movement, exercise, cycling, walking,
Mm-hmm.
running, skipping,
Mm-hmm.
just exercise, which is age appropriate, because the older you get, the exercises change. And then
Mm-hmm.
the fourth pillar is environmental, and that is caring for the spaces around you, like doing a bit of gardening, cleaning your garden or whatever it is, just being outdoors, And the fifth pillar, okay,
Mm-hmm.
the fourth pillar is environmental, okay, the fifth pillar is spiritual. And this is where you address your spiritual needs, go to church, and whatever other beliefs you have, just explore them. And then the sixth pillar is recreational. This is where you engage in your hobbies, the things that you like to do for joy, the things that you enjoy doing. Chess, it's very cerebral. Whatever it is that you like to do, your recreational thing. Stamp collecting. Do you remember stamp
Mm-hmm.
collecting?
My
Whatever
God, why
it
did we
is.
do those crazy things?
Music, yeah,
Yeah.
singing,
Uh-huh.
yeah, whatever it is, something knitting. Some people love knitting, both males and
Yeah.
females like knitting,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
crochet, others painting, and other things they find it very sort of engaging. And then the
Yeah.
social is the last pillar, and where you emphasize on building relationships. And there are many spaces in which you can build relationships. It's in places where, like in churches, in I know they have community centers in some places where there are communal games which are organized and stuff like that. So building relationships. So there are the 7: mental,
Mm-hmm.
emotional, physical, environmental, spiritual, recreational, and social. And if
Mhm.
you the writer says that you should not just look into two, you need to tick the boxes for all seven. So if
Mhm.
you're not ticking all seven boxes, you need to go back and reevaluate your life. Make sure
Yeah.
that all those pillars are ticked. You're doing
Mhm.
something under each of them, and that will
Yeah.
help you, prevent, mental health issues. So that's one of
Mhm.
the seven. Those are the seven pillars of self-care that I just wanted
Thank
to
you,
share with
Susan.
you at this
That's very
juncture.
helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, one thing I do like about my colleague here, Susan, is that she always gets to the chase. She cuts to the chase. And she, gives us solutions. She gives us ways that we can manage stress, which is a risk factor for mental illness. And I think all of these would definitely, all these pillars address some sort of stressful situations. How to manage our stress, how to manage our mental health, how to ensure that we create an environment around us that is shielded or becomes a barricade against everything that we're hearing in the society or reading about. Because one of the things that's guaranteed is that news is going to come every day. It may not be positive news, it may be negative news. But you see, if we have these seven pillars of self care, so she mentioned them here and I typed them up. Yeah, she's talking about mental, having a healthy mindset. Number two, emotionally, develop coping strategies by, maybe listen to good music, surround yourself with positivity. Yeah. And pillar three is physical, get some exercise or get some rest, work on your nutrition. Number four, she said environmental, caring for the spaces around you. It's true, because if you're surrounded by a nice, lovely environment, whether it's your house, you can decide to redecorate it, or even your clothes, you decide to dress differently, or you do a new hairstyle. Sometimes if you go to the hairdresser, by the way, it can be therapeutic. Get a massage, all that, can help, recreate your environment, the environment around you and your physical self as well. And then, of course, there's the spiritual side. And of course, there's the spiritual side, which is, of course, remember that, we have to be in touch with our creator, our creator, and, knowing and reading self-help books as well, you know, and also reading your Bibles, if you're a Christian, whatever book that you, or source of knowledge. And then pillar seven is also the social, where you need to build relationships with others, which is which addresses the issue of isolation, because isolation is one of the greatest risk factors for poor mental health, isn't it, Susan? I hope you guys can hear me, because I just realized my
Yeah.
microphone wasn't very close. But yeah,
No, we can hear you.
isolation
Yeah.
is a risk factor, and
Mm.
it's one of the things that is used a lot, weaponized. Isolation is weaponized to create mental health problems, by the way, to even accelerate them. For example, if for punishment, or if somebody wants to torture you, isolation is one of the
Yeah.
ways. I think Susan was telling us about that last time as well. Yeah. So basically, when it comes
Yeah.
to freedom of speech, not being able to speak your mind, not being able to access the right information, is a sort of mental health attack. It's an attack on your mental health, because it can create a sense of anxiety. So what you find is, like, for example, I'll show you some other videos here that I found of people talking about, for example, some social media sites that will not be available, okay, going forward. And people are actually getting stressed about it, very, very stressed about it. Yeah. So, for example, here, let me see if I can find it. Okay. Let me not talk about, okay. Sorry about that, guys. It's taking a little bit of time, because I want to show you the right one. I want to make sure that it's relevant. But okay, let me just show you like one TikTok video here. There's this guy here who seems to be having a mental health issue, breakdown over the loss of TikTok. Just listen to him. Can you hear this one, Susan?
No.
Can you hear it?
Grants.
Susan,
Okay.
can you
Now.
hear it? No?
Everything
Yes.
about it's like a
Can you hear it?
fake
Okay.
Yes.
runway.
for people to show off. In the reels. And my friend the other day goes, well, who cares if TikTok's getting banned? Everyone's just going to go to Instagram and they're like the same thing anyway. What? The same thing? Not even close. And he goes, well, what's different about them? What's different? The vibes, the humor, the interface. Everything is different. I'm going to miss TikTok so much. Love you.
Did you guys see that? So interesting.
I think Trump has said, I saw it in the newspaper. I think.
Yeah, let me show you another one, Susan. One more. Kafka Valley. One more. Can you see this one? This guy here is another one on the same subject. Oops. I'll put the sound. Okay. Forget the swearing.
We can't see anything.
Oh, I thought you were watching with me.
No,
Okay.
I can see your reaction. I know you're very amused by something.
Oh
but
my
we can't
goodness.
see
You want to
anything.
tell me I'm watching this one by myself? This is horrific.
Yeah.
Now that's bad. Sorry. This is one of those situationships.
When you're watching, I could
I'm
see
sorry,
you were
guys.
watching something.
This is what happened last
Very
time. I thought
amused.
I was watching with you guys, and Kumbi, I wasn't even watching nothing with you. Okay, so let me try and see if I can replay it and make sure that it's on. I don't know why I even laugh, because it's not even funny. It's not funny. Why am I trying to share screens that are and failing so seriously? I mean, this is what you call failing, you know? Oh gosh, this is terrible. I'll tell you what, sometimes it's so annoying. Oh my God. Don't compare. Could it be this
I
one?
think
Yes,
Trump
it's this
has-
one. Let me see if I can
Okay.
check. Now, tell me if you can see this. Can you see that, Susan?
I'm done with all social media. If fucking Mark Zuckerberg thinks that I'm going to march my ass over to Instagram and start.
Let me put it on full screen.
Using that as much as I use TikTok, it gets banned. You're delusional. If TikTok goes away, I go away from all social media. I'm done with all of it. Like, this is a complete detox. I'm returning to myself. I'm working on my mental health. Like, TikTok being banned, the only positive that I can think of that could possibly come from that is that I will finally not be so disgustingly addicted to this fucking phone that I'm holding in my hand right now. Instagram sucks. Facebook absolutely sucks. Like, everybody knows this, okay? Don't even get me started on X. I don't know if Elon is involved in all this shit either, but like, I don't use X now, and I have no intention of ever using it ever, okay? And this is the thing that's so funny to me is these apps, they know what they're doing. Mark Zuckerberg especially. He knows that, okay, TikTok gets banned and everybody's just going to start using Instagram again. Are we? This is what I mean. You guys are so out of touch. You don't even understand who we are as consumers. There is nothing about Instagram that compares to TikTok at all. Y'all have tried it with the Reels and everything. I don't give a fuck. It's not even the Reels. I make money on this app. This is a secondary source of income for me. The things that TikTok offers its consumers and especially its creators, it goes so far beyond what Instagram, Facebook, X, or any other fucking app that they're talking about now could ever possibly offer. Y'all don't have the algorithm. Your algorithms suck. They absolutely suck. And you also are not willing to dish up good amounts of money to pay your creators. So I am done. The moment that TikTok is banned is the moment that Instagram leaves my phone. Okay. And X and Facebook are already not in my phone. And they never, ever will be again. Because here's the thing. The only reason that Instagram gets any sort of attention from me whatsoever is because of TikTok. It's because of this residual need that I have for so much fucking dopamine that when I'm not on TikTok, I need to then go check Instagram because I'm just so addicted to the dopamine that these apps give me. But it ain't the same. It's not the same. The moment that TikTok goes away, this brain is going to start healing, baby. And I'm going to have absolutely no desire to use any other fucking app like Instagram, let alone X or Facebook. You guys have to be so delusional, Mark Zuckerberg, if you think that this TikTok ban is in any way, shape, or form going to help you. Your apps suck. They're absolutely atrocious, which is why you're so scared of TikTok. You want it gone because you know you can't compete with the competition. Your only option is to do away with it. I'm sick of you.
He's having a meltdown.
Now you know why I'm laughing.
Having a meltdown, a
The
complete
guy is having a
meltdown.
complete. That is what you call mental health meltdown, proper.
Yeah.
That is what you see. I'm not laughing at him. I'm laughing with him. I just think it's funny, because I understand him completely. He's a young man, and these apps are being developed for young people. They use algorithms, and they do a lot of research. It's a Chinese app, and they do a lot of research, and they're developed by young people. So young people, I think, I can understand completely the dopamine that they release. He says he's addicted to the dopamine that these apps are releasing. And it doesn't feel the same. It's like a drink. It's for those people who drink, because I don't. I can just imagine. It's like having a dry whiskey compared to having, you know what I mean? It's like having one type of alcohol compared to having a soda. You understand the feeling? I think that I see, although I don't understand because I don't drink, I can kind of understand based on the results. I myself can tell you that if you consume social media from various apps, they give you a different excitement level. And TikTok, the reason why TikTok is so popular is because of the fact that you can actually prepare. For some of us who are creators, you can prepare material and show it immediately without having to edit. You could just show it, and most likely it will receive a tick. And on top of that, many people are on there, so they're watching. So the algorithm picks you up really fast. So, for example, when we're working on like YouTube, or let's just say even Facebook and the rest, you may not get that much traction. And on top of that, also TikTok is also paying a lot of people. People are using TikTok to advertise their products a lot. So they're using it for business. And so they're going to lose their clients if it is banned. So if it is banned in America, somebody else has a solution for what they're saying is that, you register in Canada, you register a new Canadian address, and then you can download TikTok. That's what they're saying. So I think that also I saw that Trump has asked for the delay in the banning to hold off on banning TikTok, because after all, I thought that Elon Musk and Trump are all for promoting free space, on social media, and to stop this over, what do we call it? Over guarding, or whatever they call it. Yeah. Yeah. It's quite interesting though. So these are the videos that I'm watching, you people, and I wanted to share them with you as you're thinking about your mental health issues. You have anything to say, Susan? Or can I continue?
I just wanted to.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, certainly. What the young man was talking about, I think you can get quite addicted even to the speed at which information is shared, and perhaps the other social media platforms don't share the information at the same speed, because I think TikTok just does things they're very short videos of, they're not long ones. Or I'm not sure. That's not. I'm still trying to understand it, but certainly it's. I think that's what his reaction is, and the fact that it's addictive to him. To me, sort of, I think young people are always on their phones anyway. They're always on their phones on one social media platform or the other, and they respond much quicker. I mean, you could be sitting somewhere with your children and they've read something and reacted to it so fast, and you're looking at the same thing, and you're looking at the same thing, and they've noticed so many things.
The proof, You're right, Susan. You're right. It's so embarrassing. In fact, do you know the way they say that, the reaction time of older people is definitely different from the younger ones? It is different. Yeah. And it becomes evident when you see young people using social media, when you see them using their phones, you're really actually quite embarrassed, because by the time you're looking for the start button or you're looking for whatever, they're laughing at you because you're using a roundabout method. and you're so slow, and they use one little finger and before you know it's done, gone. And you're like, wait for me. They're like, oh God, and then again, also their attention span is very short. So these long videos that we do with you, it's probably me and you who watch, and a few other people in our age group, but that's okay, because we still exist. We're still here. We're still on the planet, guys. So we still need, to be considered. We still need to be here. But okay, so we're talking about the mental health problems that we have in our society. And mental health doesn't just cut across, it's not just about the social media issues, there's also the issue to do with the education sector. They're saying that, the things that are making people become anxious and worried are things to do with the costs of, for example, healthcare. We find people, like we said, that they're raising funds through social media. We talked about that before. We're talking about the fact that, it is the fires in California, the snow in the earthquakes, all the things that we've been seeing, the abductions, the healthcare services, the lives of the single, the single who are worried about whether they're ever going to get married. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that talk right now on social media, and that's affecting the mental health of young people a lot. Not even young people, even their parents, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I just wanted to say,
Thank you, Fia. Fia says that she's watching us. Thank you, Fia, for watching. Welcome.
talks,
Invite your friends. Let them also watch us. They might watch us now. They might watch us later. Whenever you watch, guys, just remember to put a thumbs up on the videos and share them with your friends so that they can also watch. Yeah, yeah. We bring you some quality
yeah,
stuff, high quality information, and we give you an opportunity to chat and to laugh and to engage with women from Kenya. Eh? Listen to us. Let's engage. Let's engage. We're part of the world. Yeah, let's engage. Let's let it not just be about mediocre stuff. Let's get down and dirty on these things. Yeah, let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about it. It's not a nice subject, but let's talk about it. Go ahead, Susan.
yeah. I just wanted to give some tips on strengthening social connections, which again helps to prevent mental health conditions, or it's a preventative measure. And here it talks about building strong relationships with your children, if you have children or younger people around you, or people around you, and getting active. That's the first one. Getting active and sharing good habits with your family and friends. The third is ask for help from others if you need it, especially if you're a family caregiver. Some of us look after ailing parents or aging parents and or ailing siblings or somebody. Ask for help so that you can at least also get a break from the situation, the tense situation that's causing you to have some mental health issues. Join hobby related groups. There's so many that you can join: knitting clubs, book clubs, and particularly the ones where you meet person to person. The virtual ones can be quite impersonal, but that's the only thing you can do. Then that's it's better than nothing. Learn something new. For instance, you can decide you're going to learn how to or something. Just learn something new. How to ride a bicycle if you've never ridden a bicycle or something like that. The other one is, of course, to volunteer, and the last one is to travel. So those are the things that can help you to strengthen social connections. Of course, if you travel, the idea really is that you speak to people, with other people for a common goal. When you're learning something new, you're going to a class, you're learning something new that will help your career, will help build your mind, strengthen your mind, get you excited about something. And you have to, most of the things, when you're learning something new, you have to talk to your classmates, talk to your teacher, you meet new people. Hobbies too, you're interacting with people. So those are some of the tips for strengthening social connections, and they're very, very good for your emotional and physical health. So we recommend that, we be brave about it, even if you're a bit introverted. Let's try to engage in at least one or two of these things.
They say that
You're
pet
muted.
ownership, yes, they say that pet ownership also improves mental health, by the way. Having a pet, owning a pet can improve your mental health a lot. So pets, like, for example, cats, dogs, rabbits, birds, what else considers pet? Oh, some people own snakes. That's a bit scary, though. But generally, pets are they kind of how do they help your mental health? They help you to exercise because they force you. If you have an animal, you have to take it out. You have to brush it. You have to clean it. You have to feed it. You have to. So sometimes when you're depressed, some of the problems with depression is that you might find yourself having to stay in bed. But if your cat comes there and it's meowing and meowing and meowing and the dog is barking, it needs to be fed, it'll force you to get out of the bed. Also, they kind of like these animals, they also have a high level of sensitivity towards our emotions. And so they can experience what you're experiencing. They're a gift. These animals are really a gift to us. Yeah. And so if you know somebody or if you are yourself experiencing mental health problems, one of the ways to tackle it is by having pets. They are really, they have been known and they have been proven scientifically to reduce depression. Yeah, to reduce the depression. And if you have like conditions like high blood pressure, they can also, calm you down, and in that way also then bring down your pressure. There's so many things. And animals also, they love you unconditionally. Usually, apart from cats, although even some cats do, but most dogs will love you unconditionally. So those are the kinds of things that we should be considering. That you can consider having a pet. And again, they also say that children who are autistic, they have mental health benefits from pets. Yeah, pets, dogs and cats. They're helpful to people who have autism or ADHD and all those attention deficit disorder and things like that. Yeah. Yeah, so that's again another thing I want to alert you guys to is there was a teacher well-being index. It's basically an insight into the mental health and well-being of teachers and education staff working in the UK. Okay, let me see if I can share that screen with you so that you can see. Okay, because of course it's nice for us to look at it together. I'm learning every day, sometimes. Thank you for being patient with me, guys, as I'm learning here. Teacher Wellbeing Index. Let me see. Here it is. Can you see this, Susan? Can you see it? Teacher Wellbeing Index. Can you see? Susan? Hello? Where's Susan? Oh, Susan's not even there. She's even off. I can't even hear her anyway. But hopefully you guys can see. Fia, can you see? Can you see that Teacher Wellbeing Index? Yeah. So basically, the Teacher Wellbeing Index basically talks about, it was an 8th annual survey of 3,000 education staff. They provided new insights on the impact of pupil and parent behavior on staff morale and well-being. Okay, so they said that 82% of the workforce, the teaching workforce, told us that challenging behavior by pupils and students had increased, and this had negatively affected their mental health and well-being. So you see, when pupils and students are misbehaving, it affects the well-being of staff. 70% of those staff, teaching staff, reported a similar increase in challenging interactions by parents. Also said it had the same effect. So it's not just the students, but also challenging interactions with parents. And again, 84% of staff, that's the highest level, told us that verbal and physical abuse by pupils or students had increased. And they believe that is due to the lack of provision for students' physical, emotional, and mental health needs. So they're also saying that pressure from parents has negatively impacted my mental health. I frequently find myself overthinking interactions, feeling inadequate, exhausted by the demands of my role. This stress has affected my personal life, leaving me too tired to engage with my family or take care of myself. This is one teacher. They talk about the lack of support from public services, the persistently high rates of stress, anxiety, depression, and burnout. Yeah. Sometimes we don't even think about our teachers enough. And I believe that this survey would be reflective of the situation with many teachers all over the world. 77% of staff experience symptoms of poor mental health due to work, down 3% 2023. They experience insomnia, difficulty sleeping, and they believe that also half of the staff consider their organization's culture to have a negative effect on their well-being. And the result of all of this, you guys, is that with the teacher well-being index, is that there's been a very big, massive move of teachers. Teachers are leaving their jobs, they're leaving their professions in the UK in droves. In droves. Again, they were talking about over 2 million hours of lost work time from teacher absences, where they call in sick and they don't come to school to teach because of them. And they mention it's because of mental health issues. 2 million plus hours in a year.
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of
Hi, Lynn. Okay, go ahead,
like
Susan.
learned behavior. Yeah, there's a lot of learned behavior by children. They're learning it the issue is not managed well at home. So the children learn that is acceptable behavior. Maybe they're imitating their one or two of their parents, something like that. And it can be cause quite a lot of pressure. I remember one teacher, an example of one teacher being accused, and the parent was, wanted a meeting with the teacher because she was not smiling enough at the students. So that that was an issue, and you wonder, how why not smiling enough, that sort of thing. So I think there's been some really extreme behaviors or requirements that we've allowed into our systems, which are quite unreasonable, and we forget that the teachers too are human beings. And when I'm not surprised by the outcome of that survey at all, that the teachers do suffer from mental health challenges, because I think if the situation is not being managed well, also by the parents, if the parents are not supporting in supporting the teachers in making sure this child is a well-formed and a well-rounded child, then you have a problem, because the burden is pushed on you and you're blamed for everything. And that doesn't help the child, because the child ends up not being accountable to anybody for anything, even for bad behavior. And those are the type of things that would cause concern in our society about the indiscipline of of grown-ups now, because you've never been told this behavior is not correct. This is not how you're supposed to behave. This is how you're supposed to address adults. If none of that has been taught to you at the right time, it's very difficult for you to learn it as an older person. And of course, what happens as a result of that is you end up also being isolated because of your own bad behavior. And you're self-isolating, because other people will find it very difficult to interact with you because of your own your behavior. So, and it's just like a circular sort of situation, that's resulting in the mental health situation. The teacher's suffering from mental health, the child is suffering from mental health because of they're lonely, because nobody wants to interact with them because of their extreme bad behavior. And as a result, they've caused the isolation themselves, and then it just goes round and round and round. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe we this is interesting, and we can keep on talking about those kinds of like situationships that are out there. But on a personal level, I can tell you a little story about when I was a teenager. when I first experienced a serious mental health issue was when I was a teenager, and I think I was about 14 years old. And I guess, it also coincides with your hormones. That's when you're a teenager. And with your hormones, they're coming in and you're confused and you're growing and parts of your body you don't even recognize. And at the same time, you're also faced with new curriculum. You're moving from primary school to high school, and you're faced with new teachers and new environment and lots of pressure, peer pressure, all that. So when you look at teenagers, remember that they're experiencing a lot. Their bodies are changing. They're experiencing peer pressure. They're experiencing academic pressure. They don't understand the world enough. They're still young. So I do remember when I first experienced my very first one. And that's when I almost did something that I would have regretted, or you'd never have known me today, where I swallowed a whole bottle of pills. And I do remember when my stomach was flushed out. It was a big thing at school and stuff. And eventually my grandmother got to hear about this in the village. And she took it upon herself to counsel me. And it was her who saved my life, literally. This is why, to me, mental health is such an important subject for me. And I realize that the time to snip it in the bud is when the people are young, because what you can actually get coping strategies and coping skills when you're young for your future. So, for example, if you see your children or young people are experiencing mental health challenges when they're young, it's good to give them the coping skills then, not to pass judgment of them, but give them coping skills, because those coping skills they're going to be able to use throughout their lifetime. And I know that even till today, okay, on the 5th floor here, okay, I'm still using the same coping skills my grandmother taught me. Yeah, because I used them in university, when I went to university abroad, when I went to work, when for everything, the same coping skills, the ones that she taught me. And she wasn't educated formally, but she had the knowledge. She knew how to talk to me. And most of it was positive reinforcement and kind of like challenging what was going on in my head. Telling me what I was thinking about myself was not real. Post-truth era. For her, she was seeing a post-truth era in my life in terms of my judgment of myself. I used to judge myself very harshly, and she would counter all those attacks on myself. And she literally forced me to articulate positivity to myself, which now we call positive reinforcement, or we call, something like affirming, self-affirmation, the power of self-affirmation. And now whenever I'm faced with difficulties that could affect my mental health, I actually resort to self-affirmation a whole lot. And telling myself, reaffirming myself, and reminding myself of who I am. That's another thing. She always would remind me of who I am to her and in the family, and my responsibility to not just myself, to others. And in terms of even to my responsibility in terms of to my parents, to my parents as well. Because in African tradition, everybody is important in the family. So if you decide, they can actually can see that as a sort of way to force you. It's kind of like a way to force you to get out of yourself, get out of your own shell, and think about how your feelings are impacting everybody else in the family. But she wouldn't say it like that. It was just her way. She knew how to do it, yeah? And she would reaffirm the things I could do well, she would really reaffirm them. And she would make me talk to myself, and she would force me to articulate. I wasn't allowed to leave her bedroom until I articulated positivity to myself as a teenager. And she would tell me to repeat it, say it again, and I would go to school, and she would tell me, when you go to school, when you're faced with this situation, say these words. And that's what I did. Sometimes I would stop in the corridor in school and I would say those words, and I would switch. And all of a sudden my performance started to do this. Shoo! Because it was about self-affirmation, belief in yourself. So it's the same thing when it comes to, like, I remember even another situation where I used to follow her to the garden when I was young. There was a time we lived in the village, and I followed her to the garden. Every time I'd dump my school bag and run down to the bottom of the garden, find her there, and we'd have a philosophical discussion, and I would tell her, Oh, do you have high blood pressure? Oh my God, that's exactly what I'm gonna get, when I grow up. I was only like 10 or 11. And I would start telling her that I'm going to get high blood pressure. What other disease do you have? I start counting all the diseases: my grandfather's disease, her disease, my mother's disease, my father's disease, everybody's disease, my auntie's. I'll tell her, oh my God, I learned in biology, or I learned in school, that all these are hereditary. So I'm going to get all these diseases. And she would drop her hoe and go, what did you just say? Cancel that in Jesus' name. She would look at me like, is that what they're teaching you at school? What kind of curriculum is that? Literally, she speaks our local language. And she was like, what is this young kid telling me here? And so she would tell me, no, what they're teaching you is wrong. It's not true that whatever disease your father or your mother has, you're going to have too. No. Which diseases are those ones? And then the next thing she would do is go and pray. She would pray. I think she would cancel all those diseases in my life, and pray against them. But you see, this is why it's so important for people to also form relationships. It was the last point, number 7, self-care. I didn't know I was doing self-care, but other care. You can actually form relationships and bonds between children and adults, people who are helpful, and help them, without necessarily having to go to professional counseling. But, it's a sort of counseling. It's all about affirmation, and also, what do we say? Busting myths, literally. So that's a personal thing, and I've used that to counter the fears that I might have, because we're always being told, if you eat this, you're going to get this disease. If you don't exercise, you're going to get that disease. If you don't, I believe that no, not necessarily. It doesn't actually happen to everybody. Like, it doesn't really happen to everybody, and my grandmother was right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to share another prevention method called being mindful. And to be mindful means to be completely aware of what is happening in the present. That is, you're not operating on autopilot. And some of the things that they suggest that you do to handle this is to take deep breaths. You breathe in through your nose to a count of 4 and hold it for 1 second, and then exhale through the mouth to a count of 5. And then the second is to walk while you are observing your environment. So you just don't walk on autopilot or deep in thought. You walk as you're appreciating the flower, the flora and the fauna, and everything else that's beautiful around you, or not so beautiful. And the third one is mindful eating. And I found this really interesting. It said, notice the taste, texture, and flavors of what you're eating. So don't just put food in your mouth and you can't even remember what it tasted like. And you can't even say, oh, it was salty, or it was dry, it had a lovely, it was savory. I could taste the garlic, I could taste the ginger, I could taste the whatever. So you enjoy what you're eating, you taste, and you're able to process and say, what the texture is, dry, is it whatever, and the flavors. So you're really savoring that. So by touch, you touch here and say, oh, this part is okay, there's not feeling pain. You touch the other, your legs, your toes, whatever, and see which parts are hurting, which parts are not hurting, and see how each of them is feeling. And then look up resources on mindfulness. You read more about it, seek spaces where you can discover more about that. So really, it's about not being so deep in thought, so absorbed by your problems that you're not able to appreciate what is around you. So that's what being mindful is. So we're encouraging all of us to be more conscious of what's happening around us, to enjoy, to breathe well, to walk well whilst appreciating the beauty, to be mindful, enjoy your food, eat it and taste it, and you know tell the flavors, the texture, and the taste.
Yeah.
Look, check your body for. You might, might need to go and see a doctor, and they'll tell you you need to stop this or start this, whatever. And also the other one is to keep reading on things that will improve your mental health.
Yeah, true, true. Self-help books, talking to people, reading is always very, very useful. Very, very true, Susan. Mindfulness is very important. I think that is what my grandmother was teaching me. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is on one hand, being mindful about your environment, about what you put in your mouth, about, being mindful in terms of appreciating, like you're saying, the things around you, what you do have, like being thankful for what you do have. But also mindfulness goes towards being aware of how your actions impact on others. I think it's so important. That's one thing. Sometimes, like you're saying, when you're so engrossed in overthinking, engrossed in your problems, we can tend to forget how that's impacting on others. So we should remember that we are part of a community. So we should try our best, to not to say to ignore how you feel, but to always to temper it, to measure, to have it to be measured. Because otherwise, sometimes what happens is that some people who have mental health issues, when they lack control and they lose control, somebody can lose their life. Someone or something can lose their life. Yeah. These are the people who go out there and commit crimes. Yeah, because you are in depression, you're in anxiety, whatever, and you haven't been mindful, and you've forgotten mindfulness. That mindfulness is so important, to remember where you are, not allow your brain to go on vacation. We have to always remember where we are. So that really has helped me as well. Another thing that is also, when it comes to mental health, yes, adequate sleep, eating right, and apart from that, knowing that we have our limitations. We have limitations, and so does everybody in the world. We have limitations in terms of we can only absorb so much. I remember my late father, he used to have this saying, you can only give out what you have been given. So don't over expect, manage expectations. Manage expectations from people so that you avoid disappointment. Yeah, so that you don't feel like people owe you. Oh, why wasn't I? How come I didn't end up going to university? How come my brother got this and I didn't? How come, they seem to favor so and so at the office and I didn't get the promotion? I worked so hard and I didn't get the promotion. Why did they get the promotion? You're only responsible for what you can do. Yeah, you're only responsible for what you can do. So the idea would be then to look for a strategy to either start developing your own resources or start applying for another job. Instead of overthinking, turn that into action, positive action, to promote yourself, to promote you, to promote your mental well-being. Yeah, so those are the kinds of things that I do. So for example, if I'm in a toxic work environment, and boy hasn't it happened, I've written resignation letters happily, knowing full well, mindful of the fact that I have to mind myself. Yeah, because I have to mind myself first. Like my brother used to say, mind number one, you're number one. I am number one. You are number one. Yes, you are number one. So if you are healthy, other people around you will be healthy. So, if you don't have your self-esteem, if there's a situation that's taking away your self-esteem, affecting your mental health, whether it's a relationship, a personal relationship, intimate relationship, work relationship, you know what? There are exit pathways to follow. And you need to be careful that those exit pathways don't hurt you. So you have to find a way to exit with causing the least amount of collateral damage. Yeah, to yourself and to others. So anyway, mental health is a very broad subject, and there's like, now I can tell you, like, let me show you something. Let me just show you something here let me share my screen. What's happening here in Kenya, for example? Experts join forces for mental health in Kenya. I thought that was quite interesting. Susan, can you see that? Can you see this document? I can't
Yes, I
hear
can.
you. You can. Okay, good. So this one
Yes,
is
yes, I can.
World Health Organization. So that was on the 23rd of May last year. Experts were joining forces for mental health in Kenya. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but over 100 experts joined the discussion to kickstart the latest mental health investment case, this time in Kenya. The multi-stakeholder event was hosted by the Ministry of Health on 17th May 2021, and it was under the task force WHO, UNDP, United Nations Development Program flagship program, which reviewed data on mental health conditions in Kenya and agreed that the scale of the problem required urgent attention. You guys, there are people who say that Kenya is an asylum. I think we could be. Yeah. So they're saying government, academics, civil society, and the United Nations participants reviewed opportunities and challenges in scaling up an effective response to improving mental health in the country. Okay, so basically what the issue is, they're saying that mental health is an area of massive concern across the world, and participants made it clear that Kenya is no exception. A staggering 1 out of 4 persons who seek healthcare in Kenya have a mental health condition. Depression is common, and there are increasing rates of substance and alcohol use disorders. While the country does not currently have a specific budget for mental health, red flag right there. The good news is that Kenya established a mental health task force last year and has recently implemented a number of reforms to improve care for those with mental health conditions. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to read from that. But as you can see, budgeting for mental health care is something that governments must take seriously. This is one of the things that I think the Western governments have taken very seriously, budgeting for mental health. And because that also includes drugs. And that's why you find so many people who have mental health problems walking on the road, and we call them mad people, or they stay at home because they're not adequately taken care of, either with drugs or counseling. They do not have access to medication, or they don't have access to talk therapy, or, people just have given up on them and decided that they are not people who, or maybe they're dangerous. Some of them could be in prison. They could be in the wrong place, in fact. Yeah. Yeah. They could be in the wrong place. They could be in prison.
That's likely.
Yeah. And actually, they should actually be treated. They shouldn't be in prison. So we have a situation in Kenya where, we have 1 in 4 people seeking mental health services. Yeah.
Just to add to what you were saying, more recently, the mental health practitioners, just to add to what you were saying, more recently, the mental health practitioners of Kenya, they joined together with the Human Rights Commission, Kenya National Human Rights Commission, and they took a constitutional question to court, matter to court, not a question, and they were trying to get the attempted suicide decriminalized from our penal code, because you could serve up to, if you were found guilty of attempted suicide, if you attempted to commit suicide and didn't succeed, you could actually be taken to court, and it's a criminal offense and tried, and if convicted, serve up to 2 years. And they were arguing this is a mental health condition, so it makes no sense at all for you to treat somebody who has people who attempt suicide are people who have mental health problems. So that's not the correct treatment. And the court accepted and agreed with them and said that certainly this was discrimination on grounds of health. And they said that that particular section of the penal code is unconstitutional. So now in Kenya, attempted suicide is not a criminal offense, it's a mental health issue. So
that's very good.
Definitely, there have been some strides. I'm sure there are. Yeah, there are some strides and some, definitely, I think we have more rehab centers and more institutions that are primarily taking care of mental health situations or conditions of patients, and even trained personnel to support them, perhaps not enough. And so, definitely strides are being made. And I think Kenyans, maybe the world over, we can say there's been a better response to issues mental health, because as you mentioned, as in your opening talk, you did talk about the taboo that is sort of connected with mental health issues, and people don't really want to talk about it. It's a hidden issue. It's a hidden illness, even when people are
Stigma.
aware that a member of the family is not. Yeah, people not the behavior is sort of pointing towards a mental health issue. It's not easy for them to be taken to the hospital. But now I think in Kenya there's that opening up where people will acknowledge, and they'll even go and take themselves to,
Yeah.
go, to therapists, to counselors,
Yeah.
to psychiatrists, psychologists, and yeah. So that is happening.
That is true. And my final point, thank you, Susan. And my final point on this now is my experience with mental health issues, because when I was in the UK, I was actually working in, I think I can say I was working in the space of mental health, because I was working as not as a carer, but as a support worker for people who have mental health issues. One of the things I used to follow very keenly, these are people who either have depression, or schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, things like that. And you take one person at a time and you look after them for the day. And so I used to do a lot of research and following up on the government and what's the situation, because one of the things I know is that almost all of them are medicated. All of these people, have to take medications, and strong medications at that, which sometimes create a situation where sometimes it's okay, and in other cases, if the doctors are not keen, you'll find that people are in fact deteriorating instead of getting better. you know they're not improving, they're actually becoming more zombie-like, more like robots. So I became very interested in this area, and I also learned that in the UK now, there are people who are agitating for reduced, what do we say, not really for reduced, but in other words, that agitating for more counseling therapy, talk therapy, rather than chemical intervention, always with these conditions. So I think talk therapy is very important. It's something that we need to do more of. That number 7, self-care. Talk therapy, talking, finding time to speak to your friend one on one, in person, not necessarily chatting on the phone, but actually talking to people. I believe that we pick up energy from other people. They give it to us. If I come in with positive energy and you're down, yeah, I've left some of my positive energy with you. So you can use some of that for the rest of your day. And when I need it next time and you're up, I come to you. You see, it's an exchange. Yeah, and it's the same thing with animals and pets, because I think even the environment around us. In fact, if you notice, if you start tending to plants and animals and give them positive things, water, uh, fertilizer, even music, play music for them, these plants, they start to feel good. And they hear it and they respond. So I think this is the reason why we need to do a lot more talk therapy. And so let's engage, come in this platform, come into our studio. Don't fear. There's nothing to fear, because no, this is not 1+1. Yeah. So Lynn, thank you very much for joining us. Fia, Alternative Affordable Cures, thank you so much. You say that you love the discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. Where are you writing from? I know Lynn is in the US and Fia is in the UK. Today, I think it's early for Louis, but we really appreciate you guys supporting us. We've been on here about 2 hours now, so we're soon going to be signing out, and I'll allow Susan to have the last word. And anyone else who wants to chat and say something, please feel free in the comment section.
Yeah. Just some more pointers on prevention. One is building resilience, and that's having learning from mistakes, exploring your beliefs and social connects. The other one is reducing stress. How do you cope with stress? Because if you experience stress over a long period of time, it then becomes really, really harmful. So you need to build build a supportive network and set priorities and establish relationships and seek help. Of course, we've been talking today about getting quality sleep. It is so important for your mental and physical well-being. being, coping with loss, and we've also talked about strengthening social connections. So those are some of the preventative measures that we would recommend. All this literature is available, online, and let's try to keep healthy. Let's be proactive in maintaining good mental health, and really know when we need to ask for help.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Susan, for those self-care tips. There were 7 of them. And for the rest of you guys, apart from that, I think maybe my very final thought is, if you find yourself in a toxic situation, I think at some point one has to make a decision for yourself. Always put yourself first. Yeah. Sad to say, but yeah, put yourself first, because in the end, if you protect yourself, then you have a greater opportunity to improve. Even if it's just separating yourself from the situation, it doesn't have to be permanent. You can actually move away from the situation for a while to reflect, think, take time out. We were taught this in Catholic school. I attended a Loreto school, and we actually used to have time when, you have just time by yourself to think, to plan. There's a friend of mine who was Catholic one day who told me to write down pros and cons of continuing to be in this organization, or continuing this relationship. Yeah, things that you don't have to do. There's some things that you have to do, such as being a parent. That one is not debatable. If you're already a parent, you must. It's your responsibility to look after that child. You can't say it's such a toxic environment, I can't look after my child. The issue is, how do you look after your child in that toxic environment? How do you create an environment that is not toxic? If it's toxic for you, most likely it's toxic for the child too. Yeah, so as the adult, then we are responsible to ensure that the children are living in comfortable environment. So the idea is to remove ourselves from these toxic environments, yeah, as much as possible. Separate yourself from it so that you can find yourself. Find yourself, yeah, recharge your batteries, fill yourself up with positive things, positive thoughts, yeah. Tell yourself words of affirmation. Yes, I can. Obama used to do that. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. Yeah, and I will overcome. And then create a strategy, create a plan for how you're going to do things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But sometimes you can't plan if you're completely surrounded by toxicity. If it's toxic, it means that it's not healthy. Yeah, so it can affect your self-esteem. Anything that affects your self-esteem is not good for you. And this world is full of opportunities. That's one thing I realized. That one job is not the only job out there. There are lots and lots of opportunities, and one also has a lot of potential that is unexplored. Sometimes, if you put yourself in a difficult position, that is when you find out what your potential is, and you're shocked. You're like, whoa, Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the thumbs up, for the hearts. I really appreciate that. It's been so nice chatting with you. And we'll see you next time on our show. We're going to be back tomorrow, Monday, with yet another show. Our shows are usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But Susan and I are trying our best, to give you more of our time. Yeah, because it's also an opportunity for us to offload what's on our minds. Yeah. So let's come over tomorrow night. Usually the show is a bit late. We're going to try and do it a bit earlier, because it's also affecting our mental health. We need to sleep enough. We all need to sleep enough, because here we are GMT +3. Okay, bye. Toodles, guys. Thank you so much on behalf of Susan and I. African Queen Mo Show, Cardiff. Bye-bye. Toodles. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everybody in the comment section, and bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
And a good week ahead. Bye-bye.